It's just because all the others shouldn't say that. Because I just got it. Okay, so. You got a water bottle. How are you doing? Nice to see you. Good.
We still have, this is reasonable.
They were actually good stories. So it was great. It just makes such a difference. They stayed cold. No, I want to. They're coming over here.
Yes.
Crazy times.
Yeah.
And having that structured role where there's a lot of
It's okay if you've got radar and
within regional distance of the structure.
so many boats. When you're lost in the fog, you're much like anyway, good seeing you. All the best.
Greetings. I think we're going to be trying to chair this meeting from Zoom today. If it doesn't work, I hope one of the other experienced counselors in the room can take on chairing. But to start, we'll give it a shot. I know, unfortunately, we've got another couple of absences, and I was hoping the deputy mayor could take my place, but he's even more unavailable than me. So I'll call the meeting to order not going to call it to order at my time, but at your time, it's 1:01 p.m., I believe. And first, we'll approve the agenda. I see Councillor Kroll, seconded by Councillor DeAndrade. All those in favor? The motion carries. And first up on the agenda, we've got Chief Rob Michael from the Gibsons District Volunteer Fire Department to present the Q4 report for 2025. Welcome, Chief Michael.
Thank you very much. I'm just not quite sure where to look right now. Generally, I have a script prepared. I just ran out of time working on some other reports, so I just wanted to highlight a couple things in the report here where we've had 7 new recruits had started just a couple weeks ago. We had a milestone with Graham Webb, who has done an incredible 40 years of service. And we're looking to do some more formal recognition in the future, and I might be looking for some help to make sure that's properly recognized. We've also promoted firefighter Chris Morse to an acting lieutenant position. And happy to take any questions that Mayor or Council has on the report.
Thank you, Chief Michael. I see two hands up at the same time. I can see from here. I'll go. I think I saw Councillor Kroll first. The contrast is better with his black coat.
Thank you, Mayor White, and thank you, Chief Michaels, for your report. First of all, I noticed your team was out practicing for the climb at the Wall Center. I just wanted to advocate that we have an amazing local team. They've done very well in the past. Last year, I know they were one of the top teams for raising funds for an incredibly significant cause. Lung disease is a major issue, and so certainly appreciate the work your team is doing, and certainly would advocate for as much support as the community is able to give them with their endeavor. In your report, I noticed medical aid
39.
is a huge aspect of your call-outs. And I'm just wondering if you would care to elaborate on that, because I can only imagine it's a multifaceted tasking that you're faced with. And that would be the first part of what I wanted to inquire about. And the other thing, with the fact that your members now get paid for certain aspects of their duties, does that mean they've lost their first responder tax credit?
Okay.
And I'll allow you to answer either way.
Thank you for the questions here. So first off, that was one of the other things I wanted to highlight, so thank you for reminding me, is the fundraising efforts. And so the last quarter was Crash the Coast, and I recognize the shout out that Councillor Kroll gave at one of the council meetings here as well, but they raised almost $16,000. They're at it again. They're working on the stair climb. There's this nice little set of stairs right in front of Town Hall, so I'm glad that they're being noticed. Last year, if they were not one of the top team, they were one of the top teams. And I think that firefighter Lisa Stiver was actually the top fundraiser for the event. So she's trying very diligently to meet and match that again. The other question that I heard was about the volunteer tax credit. I think at this point, it is still available to our firefighters. We've tried to seek some clarity through the Canadian Association of Fire Chiefs, but at this point, we believe that credit is still available to casual part-time firefighters.
And just
There
follow
was
up.
another question there, actually.
Yeah, the medical aid.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. I haven't done a wholesome analysis, but I would suggest that medical aids are fairly flat, percentage-wise or call volume-wise, or for Gibsons anyways, for the last few years. But it is a service that is provided. Gibsons will generally attend the most critical types of medical calls. The BC ambulance color codes those, so we will go to, a purple classification of a call, or the highest, where our quick response action skill set equipment can make a life-changing impact. Or if ambulance is requesting us. So if they're delayed, they need an extra set of hands, something like that. But we do generally rely on the ambulance to provide their service, and are only attending the most critical or where they are asking for our help.
Thank you. Councillor D'Andrade.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, first of all, congratulations on the money raised. It's quite impressive for the short period of time. I understand that there are nearly 400 public buildings and that require fire and life safety inspections. And even though the capacity, I think, when I read the report, it seems that it's going to improve in terms of being able to do these inspections. But what's the average per year that, is there well, I'm sure there's an average, but I don't know if it peaks too much 1 year or.
For an average, I'd say we're getting about 300 of those properties. We are wanting to get to 400. We are wanting to do them all. But as for capacity, that is increasing in about a week and a half as we are going to welcome firefighter Laura Barker as a new fire prevention officer for Gibsons.
So Mayor, can I,
Oh, sorry, as a new fire inspector for Gibsons.
so, what are you hoping to achieve? Because it always, since I read these reports, it always feels like very behind, right? So with her in charge of these inspections, are you, 100 something a year? I'm just curious.
No, we're anticipating and we're hopeful for full compliance this year.
Wow, okay, wow, that would be amazing.
That will be.
Thank you.
Okay, great questions. Those were definitely a couple things that I was thinking about myself. So I don't have any further questions, and thank you, Chief Michael, once again for joining us. And I'm glad to hear there are plans for more recognition of Graham Webb, and we'd be happy to be involved in that from the perspective of the town to express our gratitude to him for these decades of volunteerism for our community.
Thank you. I'll try to reach out and we'll come up with a plan.
Great. So moving on, just think I got just having to check here. Okay. Now we're on to the RCMP report. Sorry, I don't have paper in front of me here. I have to move windows around on my computer. So I see Staff Sergeant Prunty is with us. I wasn't sure if it would be Staff Sergeant Prunty or Sergeant Newman. So good to see that on the screen. Welcome. And
Thank you, Mayor White. Yes, it was originally going to be Sergeant Newman.
oh, I think your mic's off because I can't hear you.
Let's try that again.
There.
You're okay. Yes, happy to be here today. It was originally going to be Sergeant Newman. So he's actually prepared the report, but I'm back from vacation a little bit early and ready to present today. So we have with us the Q4 or the end of 2025 report for October to December, as well as a separate report for the year end, highlighting year end and year to date comparisons. So going through the stats, there were no glaring things of note to highlight. One thing that we are cognizant of is the increase in shoplifting that you'll see both in the Q4 report as well as the year-to-date report. I can report that with shoplifting, there were 2 offenders identified and arrested that were responsible for several repeat shoplifting offenses within the mall area at the Sunnycrest Mall. But we are aware that in general, this is over BC as well. Shoplifting and property offenses are on the rise. You'll see that with thefts from vehicles as well. For the thefts from vehicle files, there's a couple of things going on there. We have advocated for an increase in reporting, so that will lead to more, the increase in reporting, is showing now in our stats. We were aware that there were thefts from vehicles that were occurring that weren't being reported. We think we're capturing more of them now. And again, they are mostly attributed to a small number of offenders on, especially for the Q4 report. Looking at calls for service, which they've just labeled it as CFS, but that means overall calls for service. There is an increase both for Q4 as well as for the year to date. And we're showing for Q4, 374 files in Gibsons. And for year to date, 1,615. So both are trending upward in terms of overall calls for service. You'll also see with mental health related occurrences, the year to date as well as Q4, there is a significant increase. That is mostly attributed to the way that we are capturing those mental health related calls now to more accurately reflect the context of the situation. So those, again, they're not separate calls over and above the calls that you see reflected throughout the report. It's where there's a mental health aspect to the call. So it could be a cause disturbance call, it could be a check well-being call, but there's a mental health aspect to it. That's about all I had for you, and except I'm sure you have questions.
Yeah, I could start with a question, just especially looking at year to date when we're going to 2023. Are we now all caught up to the time when you zeroed in on calls only in the town of Gibsons?
Yes, that's a good question.
Okay.
Yeah, we're caught up to that now. So we are
2022 was the last time it was
Yeah.
beyond that. Okay,
Yeah.
great. That's helpful. I've got another question, but I'll go to Councillor Kroll. I think I saw his hand up.
Thank you, Mayor White, and thank you for your report, Sergeant Prante. You mentioned mental health, and I know from a community perspective, and certainly the perspective of some individuals in this community, they're really concerned with mental health issues that aren't being dealt with. And I know it's not really your jurisdiction to deal with them, but you're the first person we call because it's sort of beyond our wheelhouse to deal with some of these situations. And like I know even as recently as today, there was a problem where, you know, an individual was causing a disturbance, and I understand that the force was not able to attend, which leaves people feeling really uncomfortable. And I don't know if you have any suggestion how we're going to find our way out of it, because it's alarming for business people. I know there's a number of women in this community that are feeling particularly unsafe. And they shouldn't have to. You know, we don't expect in today's society for people to feel as uncomfortable in their own village as they are feeling. I can understand feeling discomfort because of the global situation and some of the things that are definitely beyond our control. But within our own community, it would be nice to be able to ensure that, you know, individuals feel safe. I know our bylaw department has been working diligently to try and deal with the situation, but I would certainly appreciate any light that you're able to shine on this, and you know, anything that we might be able to work collaboratively with you and others to try and bring a sense of safety to our community.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Kroll. It's certainly an issue that is high on our radar as well. It's you know, it is a reality that mental health issues are becoming something that the police are having to deal with, as well as other first responders, EMS and fire as well, on an increasing basis. There's a lot of complexity to the issues. Sometimes there's a criminal element to it, which of course falls directly into the police realm. And often it is more of a social disorder type of element and mental health, a health-related element. So it does require all of the responsible parties to be at the table and on the same page and addressing these issues with our most vulnerable people as a group. That is happening, but it is slow. I'm not going to lie, it's slow, it's frustrating for us as the police, because we are constantly the first line of inquiry when there's a concern about somebody having some kind of a, whether it be a breakdown or you know, an issue that's caused concern for other members of the public. Our hands are somewhat tied in terms of what we can deal with when we approach the situation. If it's criminal, we have our avenues that we would normally proceed. If it's medical, it has to be very specific to warrant a Section 28 Mental Health Act apprehension, and that has to be specific to a direct and immediate threat to somebody else or to that person. So more often than not, what we're doing is going into these situations and trying to de-escalate the situation and trying to calm the person down, move them to a different area, and overall try to make the citizens feel safe. But it is quite often cyclical. We do the same thing day in, day out, and it's frustrating. It's frustrating for us, and it's frustrating for the community. I get that. And my role here is to try and advocate as much as I can with our medical partners to also come to the table with more supports for these people that live in our community. It's kind of a long answer, and I know it doesn't give you the specific.
I've got a lot more for you. I mean,
Go for it.
Yeah, that's a long answer, but I mean, I can add more. And I mean, we've been in regular, constant communications with the RCMP. And I appreciate the staff sergeant herself kind of dropped everything one day right before Christmas to come and meet about community concerns at town hall. And I think one message that you related to me then, Staff Sergeant, which I've been trying to communicate to the community from the town is report. Like people, I mean, especially when there are concerns of criminal behavior or behavior that could be criminal, such as allegations of stalking, of harassment. The RCMP really needs to hear about it. The RCMP can't respond and be expected to, and it really empowers the RCMP when people do phone up and report incidents of individuals who are already high on the radar of the RCMP and have been trying to make cases with Crown and our courts to take more seriously when they can actually back it up with reports and incidents. I don't know about the incident today. Councillor Kroll, you'll have to update me on that later. But I think that's really crucial because way too much is just people post it on Facebook. And I mean, I'm hearing that from the RCMP too, is that they say, well, we see it on Facebook too, but no one's actually called us up. And we do our best to follow up on it, but sometimes it just can't be substantiated. So, and that's just really growing the fear is when people are taking that approach, going to Facebook instead of the RCMP. So I think, you know, especially as community leaders, we really need to encourage people to help the RCMP help us. I've found our local detachment to be extremely responsive. I mean, we can't get into details about personal circumstances, but I have heard of people who've been quite high profile of concern in our community being sectioned recently. I've heard of a couple incidents where people have been violent in our community who've actually had no-go orders from the courts to the whole Sunshine Coast, which is incredible. Like it doesn't happen often. It should happen more to ensure our public safety. And I think it's because of the hard work of the RCMP to gather evidence that these orders are made. And in a lot of cases, when I think of some of the people who've been on our streets, some of the incidents, that have happened over the last few years that have been addressed, our community is much more safe than it could be right now. And I think that responsiveness and that communication, we need to keep going is the way that we're dealing with that. So yeah, Councillor Kroll, if you can update me on the most recent situation after the meeting, that'd be helpful, and we can follow up on that from the town. Other questions? Councillor Kroll?
I think Councillor D'Andretti had her hand up, and then I would just like a follow-up.
Well, maybe follow up first. I didn't see your hand.
Okay.
You'll have to be. You're kind of very small on my screen. That's one of the difficult parts. So I see Councillor Kroll's hand. No, don't wave. So the camera is not where the screen is, Councillor D'Andretti. I think.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor White.
Yeah, if you point the other direction. But go ahead, Councillor Kroll.
To Mayor White's point, report. And, I totally agree with that in a sense, but there are times when the force can't respond. And if people report and there isn't a response, the immediate individual reaction is, well, the RCMP let us down. So what we need to log these incidents. I know some communities have actual apps where an individual can report through the app, so at least it's recorded. We don't have that capacity here.
We do. We have online crime reporting, which
Okay.
is available. We have a QR code that is, I don't know if it's on the Town of Gibsons website. If it's not, we
need
talk
to
about
maybe
getting that put on
get
there.
that word out, that it is a means of, short of picking up the phone, because sometimes people think, well, it's not really an emergency, and they sit for some time on the non-emergency line,
Right. Yeah.
which can be a source of frustration. But if we will work with communication then and make sure we have that mechanism for reporting, because I totally agree with what Mayor White's saying, that if you've got the stats that all these people are experiencing this problem, it hopefully gives you better control in dealing with the situation. So
It certainly does. And
So if-
further to Mayor White's comments, in addition to reporting it, we need people to give statements. That's the piece that we're lacking. We have, occasionally we get third-hand reports or fourth-hand reports, but we need people who have directly witnessed or been affected by something to actually give a statement to us, so.
the classic line, do you have dash cam footage?
Oh, yeah, we do love that, too. Yeah.
It seems to be, okay, thank you. We'll make sure that communications have the QR code, because I know I have one of the RCMP apps on my phone, and it's really interesting, the stuff that pops up on it.
Yeah, and the online crime reporting is actually quite beneficial. The Town of Gibsons has been very responsive to all of these issues, so we'll make sure that we get that QR code to you so that we can have more online crime reporting done.
Great, thank you.
Thanks. Councillor D'Andretti.
Thank you. My question is more related to the report itself. I really appreciate reading the report, but I don't understand certain acronyms. And even the numbers as well. I'm trying, SC seems to be Sunshine Coast, but the number, what does it mean? So is there any way, without being too much time-consuming, maybe there's a glossary, or I don't know. And because, there are many things that I realize Mental Health Act. I managed to figure out this one, but for example, CDSA, I have no idea.
Yeah, that's just the acronym for the crime reporting. They just call it, that's how like crime of jurisdiction. I don't even know but it's it's an acronym that comes from our analysts. So they try to condense the columns. It's really a formatting issue. They're trying to condense the columns so they can get it all on one page. So they have created some abbreviations that we can expand upon, certainly.
But if it's possible, any, for example, other theft, O/5,000.
Oh, that means other theft over 5,000.
Over, okay, oh,
Yeah.
okay, that's easy. Under you, okay, that is logical. But anyways, that, it's just like, because I want to interpret, and many times I have no idea what it means, so.
Yeah, no, those are very valid questions, and I can look to see if I can come up with a way to do this that has less acronyms.
Or maybe just a glossary, a little one under
Sure.
that.
Yeah,
Thank you.
okay.
Yeah, my only question, last question was, usually you include a narrative at the bottom about staffing and just other developments, and I see.
I'm glad you
perhaps-
missed it.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll continue to do that.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. So
Okay.
can you give us a quick update?
Sure. The quick sort of narrative that I would have put in here if I'd created the report. Staffing, we are still down 2 constable positions, so we're actively looking for new members for those 2 constable positions. We will likely be getting cadets, and we're in the queue for that. We've been identified, excuse me, as a pressure by the Lower Mainland District, so we have field trainers ready to go, so we will likely be getting 2 cadets in the near future. We had 1 new member start in December. Constable Braden Douglas joined us from Vancouver Island, is where he hails from. He graduated from Depot in December and started with us in December. What else have I got for you, staffing? That's it for staffing. Yeah, did you have any other highlights?
Are they mental health and youth and those positions?
Yeah, so the mental health coordinator position, Constable Gog is still in that position. And we have Constable Karen Whitby has returned to work from a period of absence, and she is back in the community engagement officer position, which again is the Seashell-funded position.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for joining us for this quarter.
My pleasure.
And, welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you.
Next, we have a presentation from Blue Act Marine Society, in the Gibsons Public Community Building Society. And this is on the Tide Pools Aquarium growth strategy. I see Pam Robertson and Nancy Cottingham Powell are joining us.
Thank you very much, Mayor White.
Please go ahead.
Thank you very much, Mayor White and Council. We really appreciate this opportunity to talk to you about our repositioning strategy for Tide Pools Aquarium. I'm going to take just a few minutes to tell you what we're planning to do and why, and then Nancy is going to speak to how we do it and how we're hoping that the town and council could support us in this endeavor. See if I can. Okay. Blue Act Marine Society is a charity that was created by Gibsons Community Building Society, and our focus is on the health of the ocean. And our charitable purposes focus on education and conservation. Normally, we're before you talking about the Healthy Harbor Project, the partnership that we do together and supports our conservation efforts. And today, we're really here to talk about Tide Pools Aquarium, which is really looking at education and a longer-term view on conservation, because to the extent that we can get people passionate about our ocean and the health of our ocean, we know that behaviors will change and support making sure that we keep our ocean healthy for all of the animals and the marine biodiversity inside that ocean. So we think the aquarium is actually an incredibly valuable asset for our community. It gives people the opportunity to go underwater and explore the amazing animal life we have in our local ocean. In our little aquarium, we have at least 70 different species that come from our local waters and about 500 specimens in total. So it gives our visitors in our local community an opportunity to see the ocean in a way that they wouldn't normally see it unless they're diving in our local waters. We are We also think that this experience has a different kind of a meaning today when so much learning is happening through computer screens and digital monitors. And what this aquarium offers is an upfront and personal, interactive learning experience that you just can't find in online. And we need to protect those kinds of experiences because they're much more powerful learning tools. So we are very passionate about this aquarium, which is why we're here, and we want to share with you how we would like to reposition this. Since we opened in 2018, we've used the aquarium predominantly as an education tool to support the work that we do with School District 46 and support educational curriculum. And we have made the aquarium less available to the public, usually open on weekends, that kind of thing. But during the week, we've been focused on our partnership with School District 46. That partnership remains very important to us, but the school district is also facing challenges with its budgets, and so the ability to grow that partnership as we had hoped is probably a longer-term goal and not something that we can expect will happen in the short term. And funding this aquarium, this is an incredibly expensive aquarium. We are replicating the conditions that the animals live in the ocean, and even in so much that they eat in the same way that they would eat in the ocean. So when they are returned to the ocean, obviously they can be healthy in that environment. So it's a very expensive aquarium. And so with curtailed budgets on the education front locally, and also we're seeing the same thing with granting organizations. We've been very lucky to secure some very important grants over the 8-year life of this aquarium to help us fund the operating costs. That's getting more challenging in this current environment, and larger organizations with much wider impact are being more successful in achieving the grants that are available. So this summer, we had to have a real working session to say, how can we continue to fund this aquarium, because it's such a valuable asset for the coast. And we did quite a deep analysis, brought together a lot of passionate people about this project, and when we did that analysis, one of the things that we did is we went back to look at Ucluelet Aquarium, because this was the genesis of our aquarium. It's the first. Ucluelet was the first in Canada, and we are following their model, except that they're at the side of a wild ocean, and so the water can just flow through their aquarium. We're in a freshwater kind of harbor where it has contaminants, right? So ours is a closed system, theirs is an open system, but other than that, we are similar. And one of the things that we realized when we looked at how Ucluelet funds their aquarium is that they focus a lot more on admissions and visitors. And if the two in blue that I've highlighted, the retail sales and the admissions account for 70% of their revenues. And the equivalent for tide pools is about 14%. And when we looked at other aspects, we are not, they don't do conservation and education in the same way. We obviously want to maintain that activity. It's very important to the work that we're doing. But we do see an opportunity for us to put more focus on visitors and visitor traffic to the aquarium as a way for helping us to fund the costs associated with this. So with that in mind, we did some research, and Nancy spoke with the executive director at Ucluelet in probably September as we were doing all of this analysis, and they were expecting 50,000 paid visitors this year. When she spoke to them recently, they ended up achieving 60,000 paid visitors. And our numbers are 8,000 paid visitors. And that is increased since we rebranded the aquarium and put more focus on it, but nevertheless is quite a large difference. So the working team that we put together looked at this and said, well, okay, if we can't, 60,000, maybe that's a bit ambitious, but could we do half of that? And if we could do half of that, would that help us fund the aquarium in the way that we need to so that we can reliably offer this incredible asset for our community? And the answer is, if we can hit that target, yes, we can. We can fund the aquarium. And so we started to dig into the tourism numbers because, we always thought the tourism numbers in Ucluelet and Tofino were higher than the Sunshine Coast, and we've learned that that's actually not the case. And our population is larger as well, our permanent population. So we think it's reasonable for us to look at what would it take in order to achieve a higher visitor traffic into our aquarium. And that means elevating the aquarium experience. And so we have developed what I would call the 6 strategic priorities that help us be able to achieve that goal. And Nancy's going to touch on the highlights of those, and so I'm going to pass it over.
Thanks, Pam. So we sort of analyzed what we needed to do to achieve this, robust change in visitor traffic and focus, really, because we have done, as Pam mentioned, education and conservation very well, and we're pretty proud of our relationship with the town and Healthy Harbor Project and our relationship with the school district, and all of that is going really well. We sell out camps. It's all good, but it's not enough. So what do? So we really had to look at our targeted marketing and partnerships, our visitor experience, so that it's consistent and robust. Our animal collections, curation, and exhibits, which we do ongoing, but how could we do that better? Retail and merchandising, which is a new investment, community and school engagement, and human resources. One of the big things that we learned is Uculet's open 7 days a week, 9 months of the year. So we don't want to open 7 days a week because we want to match the market. So that's 6 days a week. And we have been open year round with a few closures. We were just closed for maintenance and things like that. So we're like, well, right away, if we want to open 6 days a week, that's going to change our HR footprint a lot. So let's dig into these. So our targeted marketing and partnerships, we went straight to the Sunshine Coast Tourism and said, okay, this is what we want to do. How do we do this? They have quite a bit of work that they're doing with Destination BC right now on what kind of visitors they're driving to the Sunshine Coast. And we, out of that group, obviously families is a huge crossover for us with them, but also city trippers, outdoor explorers, and refined globetrotters. And then local residents are incredibly important. One thing that Pam didn't mention about the 1.1 million visitors that come to the Sunshine Coast, over 50% of them are visiting friends and family. So it's critical that the residents on the Sunshine Coast know that our aquarium is here so that when people visit them, they will bring them to the aquarium. There's a few other, I didn't want to move forward yet. There's a few other critical things. Signage is something that is done incredibly well in Uculet. The town of Uculet and their tourism partner embrace their aquarium as their #1 attraction. It is one of the few things out in that area to do indoors, apparently. But think about it. Our aquarium is the #1 attraction on the Sunshine Coast. Who can rival that? So you guys hold one of the major attractions that people would consider a visitor attraction. And so what we need help with is people finding us, because that's one of the biggest criticisms is, I didn't know you were there. I have people that have lived here for 30 years. I didn't know there was an aquarium. I have people that visit the Sunshine Coast on a regular basis. We had no idea. So with the resources that we have, we're doing our best to get the word out, but we're going to need partnership help. And we are going to lean into our partnerships with Sunshine Coast Tourism, and we're hoping with the town of Gibsons and BC Ferries, and there's so many partners that we can get to help us do this work. Okay, and there's BC Ferries is one of our major partners right now. So, enhanced visitor experience. What we were hearing is that we had inconsistencies. So, what we need to do is a better job of staff implementation and training so that we had a consistent message. And Uculet underlined that was essential to their delivery. Like, they have lineups in the summer of people waiting to go into their aquarium. And they don't have a lot of bells and whistles. They just have really good interpreters who give a really robust experience. And it makes it and they won't allow too many more people into the aquarium at any one time because they want to make sure that ratio is there so that they can have that really direct delivery. So that's something that we're really going to work hard on. Once again, investing in HR, not only recruitment, but training. So that there's a bunch of other things that we're going to try and do that's going to come down the line. Obviously, we need the money at the table to pull a lot of that off. But the big thing is, as of January 23rd, we will be open 6 days a week. and from 10 to 5 to match the hours of the market. So the next strategic priority is that animal collection, curation, exhibits. We're already doing all this. We just need to do it better and differently and just make sure that we're thinking outside the box and how can we use the resources that we have at the table? How can we maybe bring our partnership with Squamish Nation and deepen that so that we can have more Indigenous storytelling within the aquarium and within events and other things. We're already weaving it quite well into the education components, so we just need to keep revisiting this. So this is an area that, once again, we're doing. We're just going to see how we can improve on that area. Sorry, there we go. Retail and merchandising, brand new to us. So they didn't really build us a shop when they built the market. So we're having to kind of jimmy rig it right now. I will be coming after capital money from many partners in the region, ICE-T and people like that, for doing some big capital upgrades to be able to actually put a shop in the building. But in the meantime, what we're looking at doing, I forgot my show and tell, oh well, is bringing in really high traffic items like stuffed animals. And we'll be going to the Vancouver Aquarium. They have ethically purchased stuffed animals. I think they manufacture them now, and everybody, like the ferry, everybody has them. So we'll be bringing those in, marine toys, hats and toques, T-shirts and stickers, as much branded stuff as we can do, but we'll do other things as well. We got to start small because we don't have a shop, and we got to figure out how to rack all this. At the same time, the market's also going to ramp up merchandising as well, so that we'll have a bigger merchandising footprint for both organizations. So then community and school engagement and outreach, once again, very successful programs. All of this is going really well. We can do better. Really what we need to do next is expand off coast. And that's a bit of a challenge from transportation. We've been talking to Silas and Manny about how, some of the schools from the North Shore say, great, all our parents can drop off at the ferry, but how do we get from the ferry to the aquarium? And so they want to take public transit, but public transit won't allow us to have 30 kids show up and flood that local bus, right? So there's some challenges here that we need to look at and how we can work with the partners to make this work. Anybody have a bus?
Steve 36 does.
So, with all this, we're going to need more people to help us do the work. So first of all, we looked internal. So Emily Cook, who was our community impact manager, who originally started with the aquarium and then came over to the market, we've brought her back. So she is now business and operations manager for Tide Pools Aquarium. And all of this has started at the beginning of January. Education and conservation manager, so Christina was working as curator, so she's pulled back out of the aquarium and she will focus on education and conservation, this is the final, we keep moving conservation around, and I think this is going to be the final move because I think this is going to be a good one. We can see the synergy between the two already, and I think it's going to be a real win-win. And then we will be hiring an aquarium guest services, visitor services coordinator, probably not until the fall. We just need a little bit of income to come in to get that new position in place. And then we've internally moved somebody into a marketing and retail coordinator position who will be a shared position between the two organizations. So those are the initial investments, and then we're just really going to work on, ramping up our volunteer programs again, getting that training on board, and really looking at how we can make that interpretation as A1 all the time so that there's no inconsistencies, which is going to be challenging for 6 days a week. So how do we link to the town's priorities? So the health of our ocean matters to Gibsons residents and to you. The Healthy Harbour Project is proof of that. And council's priorities include working towards an ecological, healthy harbour and implementing a natural asset management strategy. So we believe that this aquarium is an example of that healthy harbor and how things are going well. These are the creatures that are living and thriving in this community and in the waters around us. And we're able to highlight them and their stories to people who come to visit the aquarium and tell more about what we're doing. So we're going to tell more stories about our conservation work along with the town of Gibson's conservation work in the aquarium. So we're just ramping up those exhibits and trying to get that work in place. And but we really need help strengthening that wayfinding because it's an expensive endeavor and we haven't been able to secure grant money or anything like that. So whatever the town can do to help us with that and with Modi and all the players at the table, we need it to be apparent that as you drive off that aquarium there, that ferry, there is an aquarium in this community. And we need to get them past the four-way stop. and Waterfront Park, right? Because they all kind of stop there. So we need to keep them moving. We also would appreciate any cross-marketing support that you can give us in newsletters and social media. And we obviously want to work closely with Sunshine Coast Tourism, and any tourism dollars that could be spent to help them promote the aquarium, we would greatly appreciate. There we go.
Happy to answer any
Okay.
questions.
Well, I very much, from where I am, need the screen sharing turned off, so I will. Great. Now I can see if there are any hands up. Councillor DeAndrade.
Thank you very much. I was very excited when I read that because I know it takes a lot of courage to dig in and try to revisit and, do the serious questions. Okay, where are we doing well, where are we excelling, where we can do better. And so I think it is a nice roadmap. And when you put a direction and you have strategy, obviously, I'm really confident something really positive and the numbers would increase. I was curious because you compare with Ucluelet. I have the impression they are way bigger. Are they?
The aquarium itself is larger, but the number of different species that are represented in the aquarium are not that different.
Not the same.
So it does have a bigger footprint than we
Yeah.
have. And so that's part of why we think that a 30,000 or 29 or 30,000 target is a more realistic target. And it's something we want to do over the next 3 years. Like, we want to make this happen quickly.
And the other thing about them is, they were in a smaller building and then they got this new fancy, beautiful building, right? So it is something I'm looking at is to how can we refresh what we've got to be new and sparkly so that particularly residents will go, I want to go back and have a look. And then hopefully it's that return visit, that's what we're really trying to work on, right? We can get them in the door once, but we need them to come back. And what we want to do is rotate exhibits and the species and all that sort of stuff. So it's like, okay, this month we have an octopus. Come see the octopus, that sort of thing, right?
Yeah, much appreciated. Mia, can I follow up with regards to advertise, because the BC Ferries is a partner, so they can do the advertise at the ferries, right?
Yeah, they do give us some in-kind advertising. It's not year-round, it's for a month, it's, these things, right? So we're buying rat card positions on the ferries and that sort of thing, but it all costs us money. And so that's our challenge, is without a more robust budget, having to ramp these things up, right? So
One of the things that really struck me when we looked at Ucluelet was how little they spend on marketing. Like, it's under $1,000. And yet they're getting so much marketing, and that's when we realized their local tourism office is significantly marketing their aquarium, right? And so Nancy's working with our local Sunshine Coast Tourism to see how they might be able to help us, and any advocacy on your part to say that would be a good idea would be welcome, because we're spending already I think $8,000 on marketing. It's not a lot, but it's a lot more than them, and we're going to double it, and it's still not going to be enough just by ourselves. Yeah.
Councillor Kroll.
Thank you, Mayor. Excuse me. Thank you, Mayor White, and thank you for the report. Challenging situation. Totally appreciate what you're doing. I know it's always difficult when you rebrand. People not necessarily realize that what it is. So that's always a challenge. But a couple of things came to mind. You mentioned the school visits, and schools from the Lower Mainland like to attend, and the transit situation. Like, if the ferry isn't arriving during, like when our kids are in school, those school buses ostensibly should be available.
So Dave, it's a price point. Those school buses, they're going to charge $500 for the day to be able to pick them up and drop them off, even though they're only needing it for a 10-minute ride. So we looked into it, and it's just the price points for the schools to have to pay all that coming from off coast is high, whereas they can go to the Vancouver Aquarium and they just take transit.
Oh, okay, well, that's one issue to be dealt with. Something that I've experienced personally a couple of times, because I've got 3 little nephews, eldest is 8, and a couple of occasions we've thought about coming to the aquarium. We've got in the car, we got down there, and there was another event at the market, and we were going to have to park so far away that unloading the kids and walking in the pouring rain to the market was not an option. So sometimes there's a conflict between market events and aquarium. I don't know how you're going to get around that. That's because it's sort of robbing Peter to pay Paul.
Well, I mean, the times when that, in some ways, I'd like that to happen more often than it does, to be honest with you, because it's a sign of success, right, when there's lots of people coming to the market at the same time. So I understand your concern. There is actually a fair amount of parking in the neighborhood, which gets used when we do the night markets, for example.
The other thing is, have you considered, because the children who attend through the schools, have you considered making them sort of junior ambassadors, that when my nephews come for the weekend who are non-resident, when accompanied by one of these junior ambassadors, a junior ambassador would get in free, but they're bringing in 3 paying customers?
Interesting idea. We have been doing some work with Len Libben and the Judy Libben Giving Fund to give free tickets to school-aged children to be able to come to the aquarium. So we actually just launched family passes that would encourage a whole family to come this year.
Well, no, what I'm suggesting
It's
is
a good idea, David.
that if someone comes during a week on a school trip,
Yeah. Oh, I see.
and they want to become a junior ambassador, word of mouth is one of the best ways you're going to
Absolutely.
promote anything.
Yeah, no, it's a
And
good
if
idea.
you had a junior ambassador who suddenly, when my 3 nephews are here visiting, would say, hey, let's go to the aquarium. The one kid gets in free, but they're bringing in 3 paying customers and probably the parents.
Yeah. And they're wonderful ambassadors. I've listened to these young children speaking in the aquarium.
Kids get very
and
excited about things like this.
Very exciting.
And, as I said, word of mouth is it's free.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you for your report. I'm sure we're going to hear more from you.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for the report, and I appreciate the ongoing updates that we have in our meetings as well, largely with Pam. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks for your
Thank you very
time.
much.
Where's the order made?
Well, I think this one was China. But I think the other ones that they're selling now, this is what my son was, are being made more locally and sustainable.
Okay, I think we're ready for our quarterly reports now. First up is Planning and Development Services. These are the quarter 4 2025 reports. And I'll just see if there are any highlights or updates to the report before I ask for questions from council.
Thank you, Mayor. So 2025 was a policy year, very much so. and a complaint year, I think, were the two overarching highlights. So in terms of policy, we are progressing very well with the Housing Accelerator Fund. We have almost completed all the initiatives with tonight's zoning amendment or zoning bylaw adoption. That's kind of the final step in a lot of the initiatives, which is really exciting. And then in terms of our housing targets, we did not reach our housing target for this year, but we went substantially over our housing targets for last year. So they are getting carried forward to this year, which still puts us 8 dwelling units over the target that we should have sat at this year. So when I report out after January 26th, I'll be able to report very positively on the Housing Accelerator Fund. And the remaining, there's just over $1 million that is still to be released to the town. So hopefully we'll get a good portion of that in April or March this year. So that's great news. In terms of regional projects, the Regional Accessibility Advisory Committee and the Accessibility Plan was a milestone. So getting that endorsed by council was a big step. And now we're working on an implementation plan for the town of Gibsons. And we're also looking at grant opportunities. And there's a few more grants that have come out. So we will come forward with some ideas for implementation for that. We also worked with the regional district and I believe District of Seashelt as well on the flood hazard mapping. And so that was all incorporated in our geohazard development permit area and was adopted by council. So that's exciting to have that implemented right away. In terms of development applications, they were very low in 2025, which actually was helpful to give us time to work on the policy, but our revenue in development applications were low as well. In terms of the building department, building permit applications dropped in 2025 as well as the revenue. But overall, in terms of the new housing units that received occupancy in 2025, the total number was 45. And then I will go over to bylaw enforcement. So the big highlight in bylaw enforcement is just the number of complaints. So figure 4 on page 66 of the agenda just shows how the number of complaints have gone up. So 24% over last year, and it's the highest number of complaints we've received in our records. So we had 723 complaints in 2025. Bylaw tickets, notices were down, probably most likely because staff were just responding to complaints. But business licenses are down a little bit, but our revenue went up because we did update the business license bylaw. So that's good news. And I'll leave it at that. We've got our bylaw officer and chief building official in the audience for questions as well. Thank you.
Thank you. I just wanted to, so Councillor DeAndrade, I'm up, the camera is above the staff table. So I think I saw you put your hand up, but I'm up, the camera's up above the staff table, I think, so. If you look, yeah, you're looking at me now. There you go, yeah. That'll work best, thanks. So go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. First of all, I would like to make just a general comment about these reports because I'm finding that these reports are getting better and better in terms of information. I really appreciate even predicting when things will come. Even though I sit here and go through every single meeting, to me it's very nice to have a concise thing that if you need to check. And gives also to residents, if they want to know the amount of work, it's all here. So it's really appreciative. with regards to the planning department report, I also appreciate the comment when you disclose that the applications are down more than 50%, but you also provide the reasons why, probably, and which is obviously cost of construction and the fact that we are going through the zoning bylaw and OCP bylaw, and perhaps some developers are waiting. But this statement, I think, is also shows that the lack of construction and the housing crisis cannot be blamed by bureaucratic red tape that some municipalities are being blamed for. So I appreciate this comment too. And finally, the question is there any clue why the bylaw complaints have almost, 50%? I wonder, is it because now the bylaws officers are more visible? But just wonder if there's any clue, the reason why.
Yeah, we asked this question 2 quarters ago, and there were no answers, but we've had a couple more quarters to think about it. So I wonder if there are any new theories or information out there or trends that we're seeing. I echo that question.
Unfortunately, I don't have a response for that. I don't know why people are complaining more. Before pre-2020, so we were at about, about 300, 280 to 300. 2020, we jumped up to 550-ish. Then we dropped down a little bit, and now we're up again at 723. So I don't know why. I don't know if Tamara, you have anything to add? No, it's hard to know why people complain.
I mean, when I see some of these complaints, a list there, there's no there's no real trend for 1 or 2 particular items that jumped out at me. But I mean, I feel a bit like Parks and Recreation here by saying that it might just be people caring loudly. It's like looking at some of these complaints, it looks like in a lot of cases, I feel like and it reflects the community that I see, where people care about their community, and if they see something, and they also see our visible officers, they're letting them know about it, and sometimes it's caring about other neighbors and their well-being, and I wonder, I mean, if that can be something our officers can comment on, because I mean, I feel like when it was happening during the pandemic, there was a perception that people were, they were struggling. I wonder if it's just if that's the case now as well, or if it's more. If there's a little more of people who are being concerned and community-minded and rather than, because when you see the word complaint, I just immediately think of, envision somebody who's angry. And that I wonder if that's really the case behind these complaints.
Thanks, Mayor White. I think it could be a mixture of a few things. I think there isn't really any rhyme or reason when you're looking at the types of complaints that we're seeing. I think Officer Booth and I are out a lot in the community. It's important that we're visible. People feel like they can approach us. Our job is to serve the residents, and I think people feel comfortable bringing things up. I think the way of the world, maybe, there is a lot of stress. People are pushed to their max, and maybe they're feeling sort of the similar vibes of COVID. But I think people they care about the community, and I think we're out there, and we want to help, and we want to hear from people.
Okay, yeah, well, there's a positive aspect to it too, but I mean, it's a strain on resources as well that I guess we need to consider as a.
Yeah, it is. I mean, the calls last year were, we had a lot of calls. So if there are calls coming in that are not things that we can address, then we can let people know, residents know. And if they're in line with our bylaws, then we'll follow up.
How often are calls, some of these, the uptick in calls, like follow up from incidents that have happened overnight or perhaps, I know sometimes sometimes we have coverage on weekends, but sometimes we don't. And that are follow up when we don't actually have somebody to respond at the moment.
Yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't have a percentage off the top of my head, but usually when we get a call for a complaint, we make the file and then that's it. Unless there's multiple complaints from different people, then in regards to the same, then we could create other files to follow up on, but I'm not sure what the percentage would be. Yeah.
Okay. I had a specific question too about one that, and I know we, of course, can maintain confidentiality,
Sure.
but just about the nature of one of them being in, and I know Councillor DeAndrade has brought this up as a concern over this term, is when an RGA has a bylaw complaint or maybe perhaps more than a complaint, if there's an actual infraction, how does that kind of impact their license, their business license? And I mean, this might be a question for the director of planning as well. It's kind of, I think it's a concern for council that we don't want, if they're chronic concerns with an RGA, we don't want to keep that license going if it's a neighborhood concern. But I'm wondering, and luckily we've hardly had any. Like there's been since we started of the last couple of years, there's really been, I think, 0 that have shown up in these reports. But now I see one regarding advertising. So I'm wondering.
So yeah, there hasn't been a lot, you're right. We would, if somebody was advertising without a license, so marketing without a license, that would be something we would issue a ticket for. Or if somebody is advertising something that is not permitted in their license, what their license was issued for. But we don't really have a lot. Yeah. Yeah.
We haven't considered revoking a license at this point, but I would need to look at the bylaw to see what the process is, and I don't have that right in front of me.
Yeah, I think when they come up for renewal, so this year for the 2026 licenses, what we'll do is when the applications come in, we'll check the online listings to make sure that everything has stayed the same. And if not, then we will reach out to the person and see what's going on. We wouldn't issue a license if there was compliance issues. We would try to work with the person to bring it back into line.
Yeah. So I mean that one that shows up on the report, it might have been somebody advertising who didn't even have a license, or
Yeah.
it could have been a case like that. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it seems like the RGAs we have, the licensed RGAs we have running in Gibsons right now are just a really solid group that aren't causing a lot of disruption in the community and being very professional and well reviewed. So that's great.
Yeah, no, it's been good.
Any other questions? Councillor Kroll.
Thank you, Mayor White. And while we have our bylaw officer with us, this sort of huge jump in complaints, and obviously it's a good thing that people are making the bylaw department aware of these infractions. But would you say, can you isolate a category where you're seeing more complaints that are driving these figures up, or are these just right across the smorgasbord of things people want to complain about?
I think they're all over the place, but we do see trends at different times of year. So at the end of summer, we often see a lot of unsightly property for overgrown blackberries, things like that. But it's not for last year. I can't pinpoint it. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And yeah, just overall, that's great news about the Housing Accelerator Fund. I know we've been concerned about our numbers this year, but that it's awesome that just through, I'm sure, partly through staff's great communications with CMHC and keeping them up to date, they've accepted our previous year's numbers, and which makes sense. It's good. So that's great news, and also so great to see related to that all the work getting done and actual having a lot of seeing the word complete a lot in this report. So thanks to our planning and development staff. And now on to infrastructure services.
Thank you. I'll just quickly run through a few highlights and then turn it over for any questions that you may have. A quick staffing update. So at the start of the quarter, we had 4 vacancies, one at the treatment plant, a couple at town hall, and a labor position between Public Works and Parks. All but one of those are now filled, with the superintendent coming online or on board here February 2nd. The only remaining vacancy we have is for a position that's vacant due to a ongoing leave, and we've got a recruitment out right now for a term position to temporarily fill that. So that's exciting that we're all staffed up. On the capital projects, some major progress or projects that we've had kind of on the books for a while. The centrifuge was commissioned and is substantially complete, so this should be the last time you hear me talk about this one, hopefully. So that's all exciting. It's been operating very effectively and has allowed for an increased efficiency in the operation, where we need to use less chemical in the process, and the effluent or the solids that the centrifuge is producing is much drier, which is reducing the shipping costs to haul out the bins away. So all around, it's been a big win. The water main construction on the Bluff saw some major progress through Q4. I think we're about 30 to 40% complete as far as water main laid, and I believe the contractor is planning to come back out late this week. I'm not sure if they're fully back on board or just addressing issue with some drainage works on Avalon. Sharman Creek Phase 1, that was fully completed in Q4 and has operated well through the storm seasons that we had kind of in the fall and early winter. And we also affected some internal repairs on our sanitary collection system. That kind of project started and finished within Q4. And we've already noticed, so that's some internal repairs on the sanitary collection system where there is some cracks or root intrusion or issues similar to that were identified through CCTV inspection of the collection system. Those repairs were made, and we've already noticed a reduction in the flows at the treatment plant from the infiltration and inflow that we would get from the runoff. Hard to quantify yet because it's such a short period of time right now, but the feedback I got from our chief operator is that often, in years past, whenever we'd have 25 to 50 mil rain events, the plant would automatically kick itself into storm mode, which is a way that allows the treatment process to accelerate to kind of keep up with the volume of water coming into the plant. And then during the heavy rains that we had through December, that didn't happen once. So we're already noticing a significant reduction in the kind of the peak flow during rainfall events from doing these repairs. It'll be a little bit easier for us to report out on it kind of by the end of 2026, once we've got about a year of kind of data that we can do a better comparison. But that's pretty exciting. Just in terms of the reduction of flow, it reduces our treatment costs, and it also functionally increases capacity of the treatment plant by not having to treat clean stormwater. I think that's all the highlights I had, so I'll just look to our committee for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I see Councillor Kroll.
Thank you, Mayor White, and thank you for the report. Something that I really appreciate seeing is just, and you've referenced it in some of how these repairs and upgrades are impacting on the functionality of the system. And I noticed in your report just the two sort of shelters that have been created. Looking at them, and thank you for providing pictures. We always like pictures to break up the verbiage, but it's it's exciting to see something so simple is having such a big impact on the operation of the overall system. So kudos to staff for coming up with this. There was no fanfare or bells ringing or ribbon cutting, but I really do appreciate the initiatives that staff are taking on to improve the functioning of the system, which is helping us all. So thank you very much. And other than that, I don't really have any significant questions. I notice this bright, shiny new piece of equipment you have for dealing with the grease that you have mentioned on numerous occasions. Has there been any follow-up? You mentioned that you were pursuing a number of our restaurants to see if they may have been inadvertently contributing to the problem, but is there any follow-up on that?
Yeah, I guess through the chair, we have completed some inspections. The first few were completed earlier in January, so I kind of left it out of this report. It's the timing. Sometimes these reports can be a bit awkward when we have stuff that kind of carries over, but we did start the first few inspections and looking at the next inspections as well, and there will be some follow-up with the restaurants in terms of just making sure that they've got all the documentation that they need, and if there are any deficiencies that are noted through the inspection, we had a certified plumber join our staff, that there's kind of a clear list of corrective actions to take just to make sure that they're not inadvertently contributing to the grease issues in the collection system. We did have some ongoing issues with grease. One of them was on New Year's Day, so you'll see it in the next Q report. And that the equipment at the treatment plant, while it's not going to do anything about the grease in the collection system, it will allow our staff to, as needed, clean the grease up off of the top of the SBRs. It's the sequencing batch reactor. So the open tanks that are at the treatment plant, it'll allow them to clean the grease off of that rather than having to wait until it's at a significant volume enough to be worth engaging with the contractor to come from the city that has the adequate equipment to take it. So now we can just do it as it comes in. We can treat it and we can pump it into the digester, which is on site as part of the treatment process, which can handle the grease. And so we're able to just deal with it as it comes in. It's going to increase the quality and reduce our costs of having to contract out. So it'll pay for itself probably within a couple months.
Just as a follow-up is, I know human nature, people, think just dump it down the drain. Is there any communication that we could be putting out just to the general public that, I know they're going to do it, people fry something and they sort of wash out the pan and the grease goes down the drain. I'm assuming that probably, it's a cumulative effect. But is there any better communication we could be putting out?
Well, we shouldn't say we know they're gonna do it. I think people should absolutely not do it.
Well, they shouldn't do it, but,
And we've been putting a lot of communication out about it over the last, all this term. Is there more we've been doing or more we could do? I see it constantly. I don't know if I can't see if our communications coordinator is here.
She's not. It's certainly something we can discuss with her. We do regularly have messaging around grease in the utility bills. We've had campaigns where it's been a targeted communication. I feel like it happens at least once a year. We'll do a bit of a splash with it. And to the mayor's comment, absolutely, people should not be dumping any cooking oil or grease down the drain. There's some that's inevitable to come off as you're washing pans, but if you have an accumulation, the easiest thing you can do is wipe it with a paper towel and put it in your compost bin, and that's where it belongs. If you've got cooking oil, if you've been deep frying stuff at home, you put it in your compost. It does not go down the drain because it ends up costing the town and by extension the residents money to deal with it in the collection system or at the treatment plant.
Thank you.
Councillor DeAndrade.
Thank you, Mayor. On this point, I think it has to be, because I appreciate and I read the message that comes twice a year, but I don't think it's enough. I think this issue, because when people are used to do certain thing, they do on the automatic. So this is a message that has to, and provide, maybe use your newspaper that instead of tossing the garbage, use it. I think you can put newspaper with oil on the compost. Especially newspapers now, they're all vegetable ink, so they won't contaminate. I think this has to be ongoing. So based on my experience with behavior change, it's not going to come from twice a year. Some people would pay attention, but Mayor, I also have a comment and a question.
On that, it's more than twice a year. I see it on social media.
Oh, yeah, okay.
On a regular basis as well as the utility bills. So. But I'm sure we can talk to Bronwyn to see if she can ramp it up even more. But yeah, there's only so much we can. I mean, we could start doing additional mail outs in terms of, in addition to utility bills, but there's kind of a waste associated with that too, and certainly cost. But we'll see what she says.
So can I follow up?
What's the other question?
Yeah. Oh, I have a comment on one. It just caught my eyes with the One Water strategy that will be reviewed on an annual basis. And I really appreciate that because projects or programs have to have ongoing monitoring and evaluation to succeed. Big corporations that thrive, they do that. They have to be agile, especially nowadays with so many change and increases. So when I see the town doing this with their everyday projects, I think this is not only wise, but it's much appreciated. And it can change or not. If it doesn't change, it's because it's the top of, it's the best outcome. I have a question regarding let me just get to the page. Sorry. Oh, the wastewater facility, the expansion study. So my question is, if it's an expansion study, will DCC pay for that or something? Who's paying for that?
So through the mayor, so the expansion study itself, I'd have to. I can't recall exactly where the funding from that is from. It's thank you. The Director of Finance just confirmed it's grant funding. I believe it's the Growing Communities Fund that's paying for the expansion study, and that will provide us with the kind of the roadmap of what needs to happen to expand the plant, and as we collect ECCs on future development, that would help pay for the actual expansion itself. But the study itself is funded through grant. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Now I've got another communications question, and that's just related to the bluff and the chlorination. We received one email response or one email recently to Mayor and Council about just complaining about the chlorination, and it seemed to have skipped a step in my mind because I haven't really seen, it came right to Mayor and Council and kind of took it as a governance issue when I hadn't really seen any explanation, public explanation of it, except for when we responded to a question at the budget dialogue. But I'm just wondering how much are we getting that explanation out there that chlorination is the time period that we're probably looking at because of the infrastructure upgrades we're doing and the rationale of why it makes sense just to keep it going rather than taking it in and out, which was explained at the budget dialogue, but I don't know how much that's getting out there to the community. So it's perhaps something I've missed.
I do know that we had communication when chlorination started earlier in 2025 around the flushing, and it's kind of led from the flushing program to some work that was happening in third-party work to some more flushing, and then the bluff construction project kind of led from one to the next. And so we didn't have, I don't believe, any specific targeted communication around the start of the construction at the bluff. I do know that we've got some information on our website, but certainly that's something that I can connect with Bronwyn on and work on some more specific communication. And yeah, if that's an expectation, then we can certainly make sure that we have more targeted or specific communication whenever we are chlorinating in zones 1 or 2.
Yeah, I think that's always helpful because some people, of course, are quite sensitive to it and follow it very closely, and in following it really closely, they become informed about the water situation as well. So it's helpful to just kind of provide that explanation to them about why we're not kind of turning it on and off that you provided at the dialogue. I think it is kind of technical, but some people have been following the technical aspects of Gibsons water for many years, so it's helpful to communicate that to them. Councillor D'Andrade?
Thank you. On this topic, I know there was mentioned that the water now in Lower Gibsons seems more chlorinated than Zone 3. Is there really a difference in the way the chlorination is happening?
Through the mayor, I would have to confirm with our senior water operator, but I do know that the chlorination residual that is being targeted for Zone 1 in Lower Gibsons is the minimum. In Zone 3 in Upper Gibsons, I believe it's a bit of a higher residual. I don't have the specific numbers off the top of my head. It's a higher residual as that system used to be fed by surface water by the regional district, and so the chlorination residual there was set at a higher than the minimal which we are targeting in Lower Gibsons because of the presence of that there could be more contamination just due to the nature of surface water versus groundwater. And so I believe that the residual that was ordered from Coastal Health is higher than what we're targeting in Lower Gibsons right now. So there will be less chlorine in Zone 1 than there is currently in Zone 3.
Okay. I had another question too, and it's just that photo of the resurfacing of the path at Franklin Road popped out to me and reminded me about just concerns of cars parking on the path and the impact to utilities there that have come up before. And I know that was a concern within staff too. And has there been, and I know in some places there's actual driveways across the path, so I assume that approvals were given for that, and that's okay. But just are those concerns about cars being parked on the path, have those been communicated to residents and getting responses, some positive responses back in terms of it stopping?
I think that was an issue a couple of years ago. I believe more so. I haven't been hearing about the same issues with cars obstructing the path so much in the last year. So I have to assume that means that it is less of an issue. If the bylaw officers they've left here, but I could confirm with them to see if that's something that they're still getting complaints about. I know that they had some follow up with some of the residents that had filled in just taken it upon themselves to kind of fill the swale that's there to create a parking pad, not their permitted driveway, but just a kind of a second parking area. So I believe those have all been addressed. I don't know if there's ongoing issues, not that I'm immediately aware of. So I'd have to take that to mean that largely the issue's been addressed.
Yeah, but it's I mean, there is an issue there with the possible impact to utilities too, right? In addition to just the pedestrian access being blocked.
Yeah, sorry, to clarify, so that the issue with there's the swale that's on the inland side of Franklin Road is part of our drainage system, and so by them filling in that, it's not just the trail and that's not just the grassy boulevard, but that's actually part of the stormwater management, the drainage system that's on Franklin. So we do need that maintained as a swale to capture and infiltrate and redirect the stormwater.
Okay, thank you. And just, finally, I just wanted to mention, one thing I really appreciated about this report is again, actually addressing some of the strategic plan objectives and reporting some significant progress on them. So, I guess going into our final year as a council, it's great to see in both these reports that there's some excellent progress happening in some of our strategic objectives. So that's how I was going to end it, though I see another hand up. So go ahead, Councillor Kroll.
Thank you, Mayor White. Some years ago, and I'm assuming our relationship with Coastal Health with respect to chlorination and non-chlorination of our water hasn't changed, but we had an incident a number of years ago, and Coastal Health said if we had a similar incident, we would be faced with permanent chlorination of our water. I'm assuming that condition still prevails. So in fact, what I'm actually doing is applauding what you are doing in being proactive in keeping a minimal chlorination level in the system during the various work that's being conducted to ensure that we will get back to a place where in most of the town the water wouldn't be chlorinated. And I think people need to be reminded of that. It's not an inherent right we have to non-chlorinated water. It's a health issue and it's critically important. And as I said, I applaud staff that we've been able to maintain this situation where we do have the water we have. But I think people need to be reminded that should we have another accident, and it appeared to be an accident the first time it happened, or when we had the last sort of notice that if it were to happen again, we'd be faced with permanent chlorination. So I'd just like to, first of all, applaud staff for being proactive in ensuring we'll get back to a place where everyone wants us to be. And we need to communicate that out again, I think, because it was 10 years ago, 8 years ago that happened, and we don't really want to revisit that again. So it's an applaud, and let's get the word out again.
Yeah, having been on council that time, I don't really associate the two with that unfortunate occurrence that happened then with the infrastructure updates that are happening now. But I mean, I still stand by saying some more communications on that would be good, but I don't know if it's really helpful to associate that with what happened 10 years ago, because I think it was a completely different situation, having been on council at the time. That was my understanding of it. But I think, to your point, Councillor Kroll, I think just communicating with people about the chlorination will help to remind them that it's not a a kind of entitlement to have unchlorinated water. It's actually the norm to have chlorinated water. So we need to do everything we can to protect that, to our ability to not have it chlorinated most of the time. Just a second here. I'm just going to go on mute. Sorry, did I get that wrong? Are we corporate administrative services? Next.
We lost you there for a bit. We couldn't hear you or see you for a little bit.
Okay, please proceed. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, through you, Mayor White. I'll just try and hit some broad highlights. As you know, we provide supports right across the organization for council and staff, and what the report really indicates to me is just the broad range of topics that come up that cross our desk. Some take more time than others, and some are quick and easy. Some pretty much went through the whole quarter. So IT supports continue to be a big one right across the organization, and communication supports, of course. I did note in listening to the conversation that Bronwyn's part of our report at page 99, at the bottom of that list where it says public communications focus areas, that ongoing public communications in Q4 included, and at the very end of that list is fats, oils, and grease education. So a lot of the work that she did with newsletters and things, it pops up here and there throughout her various ways in which she brings that information across. And I'll follow up with her on the chlorination issue, and I'm sure Trevor will as well. There were the usual number of FOIs this year, but about half of them came in Q4. So, but they're all done, and so that's a good thing. And they cover, again, a very broad range of topics and issues. You will see as well in the report that one of the notice on titles that was registered under Section 57 of the Community Charter was lifted off during Q4, but another one was put on a different property. So we took one off, added one. There was probably the most heavy thing for some of us were high-level HR-related type of supports across the department. And of course, this being 2026 being an election year, Tracy has been appointed Chief Election Officer and Heidi as Deputy Chief Election Officer. They've begun their planning and their work plan, timeline and whatnot. But that you're going to see more of that. Of course, that will ramp up in the coming months.
Those are the main highlights, but I'm happy to answer questions if there's anything else that caught your interest.
Okay, seeing none, thank you for that. It was a very thorough report as usual. So one of the hot button infrastructure or planning questions here. So we'll go to the final quarterly report, which is finance and human resources.
Thank you, Mayor White. The report is, as always, rather dry, but there are a few things that I did want to bring to Council's attention. In the human resources section, most importantly under talent management, and our Elevate Performance and Development Program, which you've already heard and received a presentation on. I just wanted to flag that it is so important as a long-term program for the development of our people here at the town, and as a driver for performance of our teams. So it's not just the individual stuff, it's how we put all us individuals together in different teams, full-time and occasional. And the program is up and running, but I think as one councillor just mentioned, new programs and things are new behaviors, changes. It takes a lot of effort to get them actually embedded in the organization, but I'm hopeful it will. The other items that I just wanted to raise was on the grant application side. So we have a fancy list here of about $19 million in hopes that will be awarded. I wanted to flag the big ones up the top of page 5 of 8 of the report. That's the Canada Housing Infrastructure Fund, known as CHIF, and that's all about funding the replacement of the wastewater treatment facility's ocean outfall. So awards on that grant program by the federal government are ongoing, and we're alive on the website. They haven't changed our status to pass or denied, but there's no one we can be in touch with, so we'll just keep visiting the website and hope. A really important one where we feel we put in a great application, Strategic Priorities Fund, Bluff Foreshore Sanitary Sewer System Protection, $6.9 million. We had a brief communication with UBCM, and the announcements for the round of funding from that fund will be likely July. So we have to wait until then for our answer. And then there were two others which tie into economic development and supporting visitor experiences for the Sunshine Coast and in the town of Gibsons. So that's the REDIP, Rural Economic Development Infrastructure Program, Tourism Development Grant, $1 million. While the town will find ways one way or another to get the Five Corners projects done, we're really hoping that we will win all or part of that. That announcement is expected in May, but that covers the stairs, the washrooms in Pioneer Park, following up on the parking management strategy, following up on mobility improvements down into the harbor area, plaza, placemaking. So we're hopeful there. And then the bottom of the page, the WAVE Prize program, staff and the consultant and the outside local partners we've been working with since early November. We've just completed the preliminary project design phase, which gives us enough information to complete the application to the Swim Drink Fish organization. And coming out of that process, we have learned, as we did preparing the REDIP application, that so much of what we're doing on the waterfront and in the Lower Gibsons area not only is for the community, but it's just as much for all our visitors. And one of our partners there, should this all come to pass, is Blue Act. So we're really hopeful that they will be involved in activities there one day on a much bigger basis than they are now. That was it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Director. I see Councillor Kroll's hand up. Oh, and I think I'm over here, Councillor DeAndrade. The camera's on the other side of the room. But I saw Councillor Kroll first.
Thank you, Mayor White, and thank you for your report. What my question is, in the planning report with the sort of drop in number of building permits being issued and the revenues that would normally be associated with them, are we going to be looking at a sort of impact on this year's budgeting? Because I know in the past we sort of forecast what we anticipate, but when it's, you know, if it's one or two, it's not a big deal, but it is, we're dealing with fairly significant numbers. And between building permit revenues and DCCs, I'm sort of anticipating that we might see some adjusted figures when it comes to budgeting.
Yes, Councillor Kroll. Well, I can't speak to years before my time here, but I can say that in 2024, the levels of revenues were set on a low expectation basis across planning, development, building, and the outlook going forward, at least when the 2024 budget was prepared, was not expecting any immediate turnaround. So I think we'll see together when the 26 budget comes, sorry, the 25 budget was what I was referring to. When 26 comes forward, we'll see together that there really isn't going to be much change or any significant impact.
Councillor DeAndrade.
Thank you, Mayor. This regards the swim drink fish funding. I'm trying to understand, because I know there is some hesitancy from some councillors because the town would have to come up with about $700,000. But in my mind, we don't have, because we have other organizations that whether support that are already supporting the Armours Beach improvement and so on. So my question is, I'm trying to understand the process. If they accept and support, is there any work being done with these organizations to see if funding, because my hope is that the town needs very little funding and this organization will come up with some funding. So what's the kind of catch-22?
Well, right now we have an Armours Beach Phase 2 project with the Rotary doing its best to lead the charge. And it's clear from the efforts they made that they're not in a position to raise anything like the money to do even a minor Phase 2, nor our other local groups. So they have worked with us from the get-go when the swim, drink, fish opportunity came and wholeheartedly said, wow, we could never do anything like this. Please, give it your best shot, and here's our views on how you might go about that. So we've they were working with a designer, and the town is continuing to work with the same designer. In our early process, we engaged with more local groups than the Rotary had been in a position to spend time with on the project. So from that perspective, I think the town is just advancing something that the community and council wanted to see done. Swim, drink, fish is a great opportunity. How often does somebody ride up and say, hey, I'd love to give you 80 cents on the dollar if you can impress me with an ocean-based or lake-based project that is fully supported by your community? Council set staff up to pursue preparation of an application with the local groups and to get that into swim, drink, fish, and then find out are they interested in funding a project here or not? Because if they're not, we don't need to make any other further efforts. However, if they are, and our early indications are they're very interested in receiving the application from Gibsons, we would be coming staff back to council to report that, and also to discuss, well, what have we achieved through the preliminary planning phases, bring council up to date on that, and then request permission to begin a public engagement process. So we've got several steps there. I do need to report at this point, though, that the project that's being developed now is more in the $7 million range. It would require $5.6 million funding from Swim Drink Fish. So we're still in the envelope where they would consider a region our size, not just the town, worthy of a project that requires that much money, because they're looking for a range of their money from 3 to 15 million for 5 or 6 BC projects. That would leave the town share at 1.4 million. There are some of our existing town grant opportunities that might, and through the 26 budget process, council and staff will get a better feel about whether there's any possibility of allocating any existing grant money there. I just want to lower expectations because we have so much demand for infrastructure and so on for that grant money. The earliest, we did a calculation just to get a feel of what does that mean for a single-family residence in the community, $1.4 million in the debt you would raise to pay for that. And if you did it on a parcel tax basis, it would be $42 a year for 20 years. Yeah, I think, you asked a couple of questions that were quite broad, and I wanted to make sure that you had as much factual information as staff has in this process. I think I would like to add one other thing. To the extent that we're getting help with the grant writing application from an experienced travel and tourism proponent and also Sunshine Coast resident, they thought that the options that we've been looking at to do something at Armour's Beach, what would be, I think amongst other words, game-changing was the mention, and I think what they were driving at is it fit everything that's here already in Lower Gibsons, but it sort of finished something that's not being kind of like a small treasure that has not been set up to be all it can be, and that would be it. One of the things that Swim Drink Fish wants to see in their successful applications is they want to see innovation, they want to see something that could be arguably on a world level considered a beautiful design, and I think we've managed to get that far. Thank you.
Councillor DeAndrade.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to follow up on this. First of all, it was a little bit of surprise that the fund increased, but I understand. I'm sure the project is way more exciting. One thing is, people who live in Roberts Creek, they probably would benefit as well, or Area E. And I know there are many wealthy people that live there. So my question is, during public engagement, do you think we would have opportunity for fundraising and setting donations? Is there a good window for that?
Well, Councillor DeAndrade, there's nothing that stops the town from doing that. It's an option. We can certainly try a number of alternatives to see if anything comes from it. There's no harm in trying.
Any more questions? Seeing none, I think that wraps up our quarterly reports. And I'm just going to our agenda here. The next committee of the whole meeting will be held on Tuesday, February the 3rd, 2026 at 1 p.m. And we have a council meeting coming up in about half an hour, correct? Am I looking at am I doing, got my times right? So yeah, I'll be joining you for that. And we need a motion to adjourn. Moved by Councillor Kroll, seconded by Councillor DeAndrade. Thank you. All those in favor? The motion carries, and see you in about half an hour.